Welcome to Zitron Squeeze, where today the AI boom starts looking a lot like structured finance. A lot of the AI story is being told as a technology race. But underneath it, there's a financing story. And that story matters because booms usually break where the money got weird. The core claim here is that AI data center special purpose vehicles, these SPVs, resemble synthetic CDO logic more than ordinary corporate borrowing. The reason isn't that the structures are literally identical to 2008 mortgage products. It's that they raise debt, slice risk for different investors, and repeatedly finance claims on the same underlying revenue stream, usually a contract tied to a big customer like OpenAI. That distinction matters if several lenders all think they hold exposure to a durable AI cash flow, but that cash flow really depends on a very small set of buyers staying healthy. The system can look diversified while actually being tightly correlated. The strongest part of the analogy is correlated exposure. The weaker part is market plumbing. We do not have the same publicly visible derivatives web that defined the mortgage era. But concentrated project financings can create a different kind of fragility. You need fewer failures for the dollar damage to get large. Bloomberg's estimate is more than $500 billion of AI data center debt, with at least $200 billion in private credit, often sitting outside the headline balance sheets of the biggest tech companies. That's important because investors often read a low reported debt number as evidence of conservative financing. If Meta reports $58.7 billion in long-term debt, but also has roughly $39 billion in AI data center obligations through SPVs, the economic risk is bigger than the simple debt line suggests. Google and Amazon using similar structures doesn't prove recklessness by itself. SPVs can be legitimate tools for project finance. The real question is whether these structures are being used mainly to match financing to assets or to make leverage look lower and risk more remote than it is. This is where the boom narrative gets pressure-tested hardest. Sightline reports about 190 gigawatts of data center capacity and planning, roughly $1.68 trillion of build, while current annual AI compute spend is around $100 billion. Even allowing for rapid growth, planned capacity being more than 15 times current demand is a huge gap. Now the pushback is obvious. Demand can compound fast, model training is expensive, and everyone is betting that inference scales massively. But a growth story still has to answer who actually pays. Capacity is not demand. A planned build-out only makes sense if a broad enough customer base exists to absorb it at prices that service the debt. And right now, the spend appears highly concentrated, with estimates that 70 to 80% comes from OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, and Google. The concentration problem gets sharper when you compare the giants with the neoclouds. OpenAI is estimated around $50 billion of AI compute spend, Anthropic around a similar scale, while companies like RunPod or Lambda may be doing 100 to 500 million in annual revenue. Those aren't interchangeable customers. If your financing model quietly assumes a deep market of many buyers, the actual market described here is much narrower. Then there are the cash trap clauses. If a major customer stops paying, some SPVs can stop distributing cash to lenders after roughly 3 months. That's a structural cliff, not a gentle slowdown. It means servicing cash can disappear abruptly, which makes these deals more fragile than a top-line contract announcement might suggest. One of the strangest details is NVIDIA reportedly pledging to purchase unsold GPU capacity from neoclouds like CoreWeave and Nebius for up to $30 billion through 2032. If that's accurate, NVIDIA is not just selling the core input, it's also helping support the economics of the collateral tied to GPU consumption. You can see why lenders would like that. It makes demand look safer. You can also see the conflict. If the supplier is also backstopping unsold capacity, apparent market demand may partly reflect an internal support mechanism rather than independent customer pull. That doesn't automatically make the demand fake. It does mean the market signal is less clean than headlines about insatiable GPU appetite imply. This is not just a venture capital problem. Private credit firms, including Blue Owl and IPI Partners, have reportedly put billions into these SPVs, and through them, the exposure can reach pension funds, sovereign wealth money, insurers, and retirees. Moody's estimate of about $1.4 trillion of bank exposure to private credit matters here because it connects an opaque financing niche back to the broader financial system. That does not mean all of that bank exposure is AI data centers, and it's important not to overstate the contagion case. But if a cluster of large AI deals went bad at once, the write-downs would not stay neatly contained inside a few adventurous funds.
The macro story is familiar. A global savings glut means large pools of capital are hunting yield, especially from Asian and European investors that want something better than plain safe assets.
Private credit can present AI data centers as exactly that sweet spot. Huge demand story, hard assets, prestigious counterparties, and returns better than traditional investment-grade debt. That's how fragile structures scale, not because every participant is irrational, but because each participant sees just enough legitimacy to believe someone else has done the deeper diligence. The bleakest forecast here is that as these 18 to 36-month construction windows close, many facilities may not find paying customers, and stressed defaults could wipe out more than 80% of AI data center debt. That's the least certain claim in the set. It's a scenario, not an established outcome. Still, you don't need the full catastrophe case for the risk to be serious. Even a smaller mismatch between built capacity and real paying demand could expose how dependent these deals are on a handful of customers, generous assumptions, and thin disclosure. The key information problem is that reserve accounts, debt service coverage, and liquidity cushions may depend on future customer payments rather than hard collateral, while public disclosure around SPVs remains limited. So the cleanest conclusion isn't that a crash is guaranteed, it's that the available evidence supports concern about concentration, opacity, and circular incentives far more strongly than it supports the comforting idea that this is all straightforward infrastructure finance. That's it for this one. If the AI build-out is solid, better transparency will only strengthen the case. If it isn't, the missing details are the story. Thanks for listening to Zitron Squeeze. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.